Greetings everyone, and Great here for another Advanced Wars by Web replay. So on the bottom side is the Yellow Comet Lash. We've got lawrenceal, some odd reason I have trouble splitting up that name. 1997. Spawn on the north side is the Black Hole Adder. We've got tesla246. Either way, let's go and get started. Lash is, of course, the terrain specialist. All of her units get plus 10% firepower based on what terrain star they are on. Adder, of course, is the mobility seal, but has no day-to-day, so inherently day-to-day, Lash does have some advantage. Of course, Adder's power and superpower are very spammable, and additionally, when it comes to power, they're both mobility seals. Lash, of course, ignores the terrain penalties on all tiles, assuming it's still traversable, which is quite nice. But this map doesn't have too many forests to really make use of that. Not like most anybody really pop out terrain tactics. Most times just save up prime tactics. Bit of firepower there. Bit of damage there, to say the least. Adder, of course, does get +1 movement and +2 movement. They would probably see the +1 movement more often. Not only get global test +10/+10, but +1 movement really does help out. This map is a little bit smaller side. Both players do have an airport and 2 or 3 bases here. So there's a 3 base map, 1 airport. Of course, still initial phase, but we do have both players pull out 2 tanks on this side. And of course, both players do have access to a comm tower. Interrupts the capture there. Got a 3rd tank and more infantry. There's our capture even further. Lash does have 12,000 right now. Adder has 10,000. So Lash does have a decent advantage there. She pushed forward this tank knowing that if he were to retaliate, which he will be retaliated upon. Of course, and this tank can retaliate. It's going to be a chain of tanks, but Lash is lacking additional tank there, so Adder will win the retaliations. We also have another tank over here as well. Tank advancing along the left. Of course, got a tank here, and Lash just pull back the tank there. If possible, put on top of the city, get a little bit extra healing. 3 health's not a lot. 5 health feels like it's a minimum effective health. Anything less is just basic guns and meat shield. Adder's rotating some tanks around. Does now have 3 tanks in the region. There's a decent number of shores here behind Lash's face. So this area is still perfectly traversable. Effectively, shores in this situation are no different than bridges, but do now have a Lash battlecopter advancing forward and more tanks now being established. You have an ATR here, of course, to counter out the battlecopter. Decent amount of rivers here. Not really. There's a lot of rivers coming out of the base, but in the middle of the map, it's pretty much 100% traversable. We've got a mountain here, a river here, and a mountain here. So the ATR will have good mobility. The battlecopter will have trouble. Can't really use terrain to its advantage. Got more interrupts there. Lash is 15,000 versus Adder's 14. Some damage there. Does pick it off. Seemed like a high luck roll. No bonus damage from terrain stars. Now we do have a lot of tanks. 2 more tanks in this region plus battlecopter. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And what's left of that one? Just 1 tank over here. Just provide some defense. And if Adder were to push forward and engage this tank here, there's tanks nearby to retaliate upon. So some of these outlying infantry units there. Battlecopter is on top. Not battlecopter. Chick is on top of the HQ. If Adder can squeeze out a little bit of power to get that side slip, then he's able to put a bit more pressure, but he now has his own battlecopter. Lash now has no ATR in the field, which has to rely on this battlecopter to engage the battlecopter, which is just out of range. Getting some damage, rotating some tanks over here. infantry, battlecopter, and infantry. So I'm gonna catch some properties now. Some properties still despicably neutral. Let's get some good kills there. Yeah, right now just day-to-day differences when it comes to funds. Ends a turn of 80,000, starts a turn of 77, so the differences are minor at the moment. Of course, Lash does have the starting turn advantage. Infantry. Good shot there on the 8-tier. Putting some holes into the 8-tier like that means a bit more breathing room for the battlecopter. Now she has 2. Of course, she can't second charge for the battlecopter because the other battlecopter retaliate, and we do have now a side slip available. This is where Adder can probably make some work, getting +10 global, and a little extra versement. Pretty much all the infantry is in range of each other, regardless of side slip or not. So that could help out. Does get the property there. Still behind by 1,000 income. Has a mech point of view. Need here does fall back onto the HQ. Artillery. Tank. Does a general retreat there. Lash could try pushing forward. Don't push too far forward. Gets a pick there. Battlecopter takes up that unit. Battlecopter's range of battlecopter, so that must be a bait battlecopter because no, she has a support battlecopter. 8-tier. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So needs a superpower to range this battlecopter. Though, now that battlecopter is in range of the 8-tier. And barring the fact that there's not infantry on top of the property. She's making a pretty good push. A nice little fortress of infantry here. Of course, she does have some wooden tanks. So maybe it's a good idea to merge, and that's a Neo tank. So she's going to try to make power play, make her move. And thing as well, she has no anti-air. Adder, nowhere near enough income. I was going to say, Adder could try spinning out for a bomber to retaliate against the Neo tank, but he has not been saving up his money, while Lash has. My apologies. Any push in the center. Sorry, my drink went down the wrong pipe. There's a strike there. Almost a superpower. Lash does have a terrain tactics. At this point in time, it's only be really useful for infantry sprinting across the rivers. Just trying to sacks that one there. Pops the terrain tactics. I was wondering, is there a possibility of a terrain tactics being useful? And more I thought about, the less useful I thought. But she's going to try to close the game now. She's trying to get the +10 power boost and finish the game before Adder pulls out of power or superpower. At this one time, his power would be better because he does not need a +2 movement range. But you could have 2 turns of power at the current rate. You will likely have 2 turns of power. But this will be useful for the infantry and perhaps traverse the forest. Yep, went down the wrong pipe. Decides to go for the infantry, not for the tank there. Try and put a tank into the 8-tier. Does. This tank will be able to traverse completely up there. Unrelated to terrain tactics. Pays the battlecopter. Neo tank closing distance. Much of its threats to Neo tank are not existent. He does not have enough income to bring out a bomber next turn either. She's just trying to close the game before Adder can get any more power charge. Tank, 8-tier, infantry. Lash ends turn 105 on the field. Adder starts to turn 63, so he does not have much on the field, but he doesn't traverse far. I want to see regular power, not superpower. I don't see any place where a superpower would be worth it. Does pop the side slip, very good. Let's see what he does. That was a tank. I thought that was a wooden tank, right? I could have sworn he was going to use the artillery piece for that. He doesn't have to need to take out all the infantry. He needs to primarily take out all the supporting tanks. I think the tank should be his primary target. Artillery takes out that wooden tank. Tank on tank. Of course, he doesn't really have much threat in these tanks here. These rivers, as I mentioned beforehand, weren't going to be too particularly useful, but they are being useful for Lash now. Taking out some outlying infantry units. Does manage battlecopter and battlecopter. Battlecopter, mech, infantry. Mechs are probably decent at this point in time since you can make a power to make them decently mobile. Plus a lot of amount of rivers there. And they have perfect traversal over rivers. So this Neo tank is a massive threat, and Lash probably knocked out the artillery piece with a tank. Adder did not save any monies up for bomber either or anything to counter this Neo tank. The medium tank can be useful for that. Does some good outlying damage there. Leave the artillery piece alone, probably pull back the tank and hit the full health tank against the 7 health tank. And try to finish off with the artillery or the battlecopter. Tank, anti-air, infantry. Decides not to do what I thought he should do. Pulls back the 5 health tank. Did do that. And now the 3 health artillery can strike the Neo tank, probably doing at most 1 damage, but may not even be that. And here comes a side slip. Paul should have done that before attacking there. Get the +10, +10. Does get, excuse me, 1 damage there. Getting some good headways there, picking out some of those units. Mech gets a strike there, thanks plus 1 movement, very nice. Battlecopter takes some Neo tank. Neo tank is being whittled down and not trapped there. We do have another terrain tactics. It may be a good idea to go for another terrain tactics just for the +10, +10 go in. This game, it feels pretty strong for Lash, but their value right now is pretty even, 65 versus 63. So they're back down to day-to-day difference. Neo tank still pose a pretty big threat. And this anti-hero will be out of range. Can take out 1 of the battlecopters, not necessarily both. Does get some good strikes there. Neo tank strikes the mech. Good pick there. And this wave of infantry is going to be hard for this tank to push forward, particularly the 1 health infantry unit. The mech probably needs to fall back, take out the 1 health infantry, and then put the tank to the 6 health. Also means the tank is going to be exposed to another tank. Maybe this mech can strike this infantry unit, assuming he gets to take out 1 shot, and the 2 health tank can probably strike it, but then also means this tank will have to go drop the force, I guess. In other words, I feel like Lash has a pretty good grasp in the game. But Adder's making some decent headway on this flank. Puts more damage to that Neo tank, even takes a shot there. Finish off the Neo tank, giving a prime tactics. Mech take a good shot against the tank. That's probably a good, better target than what I was thinking. And Adder does resign there. This anger aid saying, thank you for watching, and on to the next replay.